Back to Scott's Wing Sports State, ladies and gentlemen. I'm back by myself today. My dad's at work. Let's get into my picks for the weekend. First came out Bowling Green and Penn State Saturday on the Big Ten Network. I will take Penn State in this game. I think Penn State's looked very good last week against West Virginia, so I'll take Penn State at home over Bowling Green. Next up, Arkansas and Oklahoma State. Both teams won last week. I will take Ollie Gordon and Oklahoma State to get the win here at home. I think Oklahoma State looked good last week, so I will take Oklahoma State at home over Arkansas. Next up, Kansas State and Tulane. I will take Kansas State. I think Kansas State looked very good last week, so I'll take Kansas State on the road over Tulane. Next up, Georgia Tech and Syracuse. My upset pick of the week. I will take Syracuse at home. I think Georgia Tech's a little too overconfident after beating Florida State a few weeks ago. So I'm going to take Syracuse at home over Georgia Tech in the home upset. Next up, Tennessee Tech and Georgia. Georgia looked a little bit shaky in the first half last week, but they played much better in the second half. I will take Georgia at home big over Tennessee Tech. No line for this game. There really shouldn't be. It's too big to write into the ESPN.com stuff. So I'll take Georgia at home over Tennessee Tech. Next up, Northern Illinois on the road at Notre Dame. Again, Notre Dame looked very good last week. Marcus Freeman's got Notre Dame back into the national scene. I will take Notre Dame at home over Northern Illinois. Next up, Baylor and Utah. For some reason, this game is not a Big 12 game because they are both in the Big 12, but they're not going to count this as a conference game because when they scheduled this game, they were both in different conferences. But I will take Utah at home over Baylor. Next up, Iowa and Iowa State. I am going to take Iowa. Iowa seems to actually remember what offense is this year. I will take Iowa at home over Iowa State. Next up, Jacksonville State and Louisville. I will take Louisville. I think Louisville's been playing very well. Good start to the season last week. I'll take Louisville at home over Jacksonville State. Next up, Middle Tennessee and Ole Miss. I'll take Ole Miss. Ole Miss looked very good last week. Favored by 42 points. I think they'll cover. They'll probably be up by like 50 by the end of the first half, based on what I saw last week. I will take Ole Miss at home over Middle Tennessee. Next up, FAMU and Miami. I will take Miami at home. I think Miami's looked very good last week. At home, on the road at Florida, I think they look good again this week. I will take Miami at home over FAMU. Next up, South Florida and Alabama. South Florida's been talking a lot of crap on Twitter over the last week, talking about how they're going to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa this year, and it ain't going to happen. Alabama rules in this game. I want to see Alabama win this game by 40-something points. I will take Alabama at home to get it done and finally shut up these USF fans on Twitter. I will take Alabama at home over USF. Next up, Buffalo at Missouri. I will take Mizzou. I think Mizzou looked good last week, so I will take Missouri at home over Buffalo. Next up, Kansas on the road at Illinois. I will take Kansas. I think Kansas looked pretty solid last week, so I will take Kansas on the road to get it done against Illinois. Next up, Western Michigan and Ohio State. I will take Ohio State. I think Ohio State looked very good last week in their win, so I will take Ohio State at home over Western Michigan. Next up, Tennessee and NC State. I will take Tennessee on the road. It's basically a road game for Tennessee, but I will take Josh Heupel and Tennessee to get the win here. I think they looked good last week. I'll take Tennessee on the road to get it done in Charlotte against NC State. Next up, Nichols and LSU. Brian Kelly was unhappy with how his team performed last week against USC, but I will take LSU at home to get it done against Nichols here on Saturday. Next up, Houston and Oklahoma. Name the spread this week in Oklahoma will cover. Houston looked absolutely horrible last week. I will take Oklahoma at home over Houston. Next up, App State and Clemson. Clemson stays in the top 25 after looking very bad last week against Georgia, but That's all right. I'll take Dabo Sweeney and Clemson to get it done at home over App State. Next up, Boise State and Oregon. I will take Oregon. I think Dylan Gabriel was unhappy with how they looked last week against Idaho by only winning by 10 points. So I will take Oregon at home to get it done over Boise State. Next up, Northern Arizona and Arizona. I will take Arizona. I think Arizona looked very good last week. So I'll take Arizona at home to get it done against Northern Arizona on Saturday. Final game of Saturday. Well, there's 4 games left on my college football pick'em this week. Utah State and USC. I will take USC. I think USC looked very good last week. So I will take SC at home over Utah State. Next up, UCF and Sam Houston State in the bounce house Saturday at 6:30. The line's been moving up a little bit this week. I will take KJ Jefferson to play a lot better this week. I think the running backs are still going to be solid. I'll take UCF to win this game and cover the spread. I think UCF wins this game by about 28 points this week, so I'll take UCF at home to get the win and cover against Sam Houston this week. Next up, Kentucky and South Carolina. I will take Kentucky. I think Kentucky looked very good. I didn't get to see any of the Kentucky game last week because of the rain delays. But I'm going to take Kentucky at home to get it done against a South Carolina team that needed a fourth quarter comeback to get a win against a lower classification school last week. So I'll take Kentucky at home to get it done against South Carolina. And now the College Game Day game of the week. College Game Day will be there bright and early Saturday morning, as it'll be number 3 Texas going into the Big House to take on number 10 Michigan. I will take Texas. I was much more impressed with how Texas looked last week than I was with Michigan. So I will take Texas at home, on the road, to get it done over Michigan. And now the NFL is back tonight. First game out of the gates tonight. So it's time for me to get back into my NFL predictions for every week. So let's get into those right now. First up, Ravens and Chiefs. Should be a phenomenal game tonight on NBC. I will take Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs to get the win here. I think they remember what happened last year in the home opener, and I don't think they let that happen again. So I will take Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs to get it done at home over the Ravens. Next up, Friday in Brazil, it'll be the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. I think Jalen Hurts is going to outduel Jordan Love here, so I'm going to take the Eagles at home over the Packers. Next up, the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into Atlanta to take on the Atlanta Falcons. I will take the Pittsburgh Steelers from my buddy Terry Jewell. I think the Steelers are going to find a way to get a win here. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game, but I'm going to take Pittsburgh on the road to get it done against Atlanta. Next up, the Buffalo Bills hosting the Arizona Cardinals. I will take the Buffalo Bills to get the win here, even though they're without Gabe Davis this year and without Stephon Diggs. I think the Bills still will do enough on offense to get the win here in a shootout against the Cardinals. Next up, the Tennessee Titans heading into Chi-Town to take on the debuting Caleb Williams and the Chicago Bears. I will take the Bears at home. I think Caleb Williams is going to get his first win in the NFL this week and get a win at home over the Titans. Next up, the New England Patriots heading into Cincinnati to take on the Cincinnati Bengals. My eliminator pick of the week, my number 1 defense in fantasy streaming this week. I will take the Bengals at home to get it done at home over the Patriots in a pretty convincing win. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts heading in. The Houston Texans heading into Indy to take on the Indianapolis Colts. I will take C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans to get the win here. I think the Texans looked very good looked coming off a great season last year. I think C.J. Stroud's going to have another good year, another strong sophomore season, and get the win on the road against the Colts. Next up, the Jacksonville Jaguars heading into Miami to take on the Dolphins. 85 degrees in Miami on Sunday. I will take the Dolphins at home to get it done over the Jags. I think Tua's going to play well this year. I think they know that every game matters in probably the toughest division in football in the AFC East. So I'm going to take the Dolphins at home over the Jags. Next up, the Carolina Panthers heading into New Orleans to take on the New Orleans Saints. If this game was in Charlotte, I might have thought about taking Carolina. But because it's in New Orleans, I'm going to take the Saints to get the win here. I think it's going to be a heavy dose of Alvin Kamara this week. Hopefully, because I have him starting in fantasy, I'm going to take the Saints at home to get it done over the Panthers. Next up in the game that's probably going to be very bad to watch, pretty tough to watch this week, is it'll be the Minnesota Vikings heading into MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants. I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to find a way to get a win here. I think this could be a very low-scoring game, but because of who the Vikings have at receiver and that the Giants have Daniel Jones as their quarterback, I'm going to take the Vikings on the road to find a way to squeak one out here on the road over the Giants. Next up, the Las Vegas Raiders heading into LA to take on the debuting Jim Harbaugh and the LA Chargers. I'm going to take the Chargers at home. I think Charger fans are going to be kind of excited to see what the Jim Harbaugh team has to offer this year. So I'm going to take the Chargers at home to get it done against the Raiders. Next up, the Denver Broncos heading into Seattle to take on the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to go with the Seahawks at home. I think the Seahawks are a very good team this year. So I'm going to take Seattle at home over the Broncos. Next up, one of the most highly anticipated games of the week, as it'll be Dak, CeeDee Lamb, and the Dallas Cowboys heading into Cleveland to take on Deshaun Watson and the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to get the win here. I think Dak's still going to be a little bit focused on getting his money this week. So I'm going to take the Browns at home to get it done against the Cowboys. Next up, the Washington Commanders heading into Tampa to take on the Bucs. Should be an interesting game here. We always struggle with these rookie quarterbacks, but I think Baker Mayfield and the offense will do enough this week. I'm going to take the Bucs at home to get it done over the Commanders. Next up, on Sunday Night Football, the LA Rams heading into Detroit to take on Jared Goff and the Lions. It's always this was a pretty good game last year in the playoffs. I'm going to take the Lions at home. I think Jared Goff's going to outplay Matthew Stafford this week. So give me the Lions at home over the Rams. And now Monday Night Football, the final game of the weekend. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call this week. It'll be Aaron Rodgers and the New York Jets heading into Levi Stadium to take on the defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to go with the Niners at home. I think the Niners are going to do enough defensively to get the win here, but I would not be shocked to see the Jets win this game. But I'm going to go with Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers to get the win here at home. And that will do it for this episode of Scott Swinging Sports. I will be back next week, hopefully with my dad back, and I'll see you guys right back here next week on Scott Swinging Sports. See you later, guys.